apple.
Go orange. Go banana.
Now you don't need the money when you look like that, do you, honey?
This is the Mitsubishi Magna, or at least that's what it's known as in its home market. And let's address the drop bear in the room. It's not actually Japanese.
I said, are you gonna be my girl?
The Magna is a product of Mitsubishi Australia. It launched in 1985, built in Adelaide, and the idea was simple. Take Mitsubishi's mid-sized platform and make it bigger, softer, more suited to Australian buyers. It was made to fill the same niche as the two Aussie giants, the Ford Falcon and the Holden Commodore. Where the Magna really differed from the other two was that front-wheel drive layout. This had the benefit of a bit more interior space versus the rear-driven Falcon and Commodore. It was a sales success, but never reached the levels of the big two. It may not have dethroned the competition, but it still became a loved staple of Aussie roads. It went on for 3 major generations, evolving into a smooth, refined family hauler. The engines grew in size. There was a wagon, the more luxurious Verada, a sportier VRX. In a weird twist, they even sold some back in Japan, now badged the Diamante.
First medium class, Diamante, Mitsubishi.
In 2005, the Magna name was retired, and soon after, in 2008, Mitsubishi Australia stopped producing cars altogether. It was an early indicator of the looming death of the Aussie automotive industry. So that's the Magna, really. A highway cruiser with comfort and space as priority one. So you'd have to be a nutcase, really, to put, let's say, an enormous wing on it. Imagine that. Well, it seems that Mitsubishi Australia were staffed by some enormous nutcases because, well, here we are. It's called the Magna Ralliart, and it was nothing short of a passion project by Mitsubishi Australia, designed to celebrate the company's rally success. Which is odd, because the only rally pedigree this car can really claim is that the taillights kind of look like the ones on the Lancer. Before this, the Magna had a bit of an image problem. It was competent, it was comfortable, but it was about as exciting as an unsourced snag. Ford and Holden's rear-wheel drive layouts meant that big, brawny V8s could be offered as an exciting option for your local crayon enthusiast. Mitsubishi needed their flagship, and it needed to be loud. So, in 2000, the Ralliart concept was unveiled. And far from unsourced, this snag was loaded, onions included. All-wheel drive, grippy Recaro seats, a Momo steering wheel, and of course, a striking Evo-inspired body kit. There were even rumors of forced induction, which would have made it a serious competitor to those bogan V8s. Then reality arrived. Budget constraints. Gone was the all-wheel drive system, gone were the Recaro seats. The steering wheel still said Momo, but it was actually just a regular VRX wheel trimmed red. But let's not get too worked up about what could have been, because the production car still had a lot going for it. The 3.5-litre V6 from the VRX was heavily worked over. Camshaft, exhaust, compression, recalibrated engine management. Even with its single cam design, it still managed to deliver 240 horsepower, a good 20 horsepower over the previously range-topping VRX. It could be had in auto or manual, with the manual getting a special close ratio gearbox and LSD. And the upgrades just kept coming. Stiffer springs, upgraded Koni dampers, thicker anti-roll bars. Brakes were now ventilated. But really, the most noteworthy thing about the Ralliart has to be the way it looks. That enormous wing, along with the super aggressive body kit, were designed to invoke the legendary Evo 6.5 Tommy Mackinnon edition. The interior was a monument to early 2000s design sensibilities. Not quite an attack on the senses, but a very era-appropriate mix of gaudy patterns and saturated reds. All in all, it was pretty well appointed on the interior. This was Mitsubishi Australia's top model, and it does reflect that. If I think back to the Legnum that we did a video on a little while ago, there's some commonality in here, but overall, I'm just feeling that things are a little more plush and more spacious. One thing in common with the Legnum I can see immediately, this was a Mitsubishi staple in so many cars. Still probably one of my favorite AC units. Beyond the Ralliart flair, there's not a lot of styling in here. It's a pretty plain late 90s design. But those Ralliart flares, we've obviously got the red gauges and that Momo but not Momo steering wheel. And they do make it feel a little bit special. Very interesting red, almost camouflage patterning going on. But no, I like it. I'm not going to use the word restrained. But by early 2000s Aussie standards, they could have been a little bit worse. Now, the audio system's interesting. Believe it or not, this very aftermarket looking head unit is the factory system. Mitsubishi Australia were very proud of this. It's an Eclipse system with the obligatory 6 CD changer, perfect for enjoying your early 2000s beats. Reviews in period were actually pretty positive. Autocar New Zealand went as far as to say that it offered 100% of the sporty essence of the Alfa Romeo GTA for a price slashed by almost 50%. Bold claim. They went on to tell the story that, knowing it was unlikely to be approved by Japan, Mitsubishi Australia leaked pictures of the car to the Australian press. So they supposedly built enough hype to convince the accountants overseas to give it a fair whack. Really, it's a miracle they built any at all. But of the 1,000 units Mitsubishi Australia proudly announced, only 500 or so were actually built and made it to customers. And of those 500, just over 80 were exported to New Zealand as Diamante Ralliarts. Well, I present to you 2.5% of all of the Diamante Ralliarts ever made. One auto and one manual. Let's find out if they live up to that body kit. Oh. First thing you notice about the experience, well, in this one especially, is the engine. Mitsubishi V6s are underappreciated. This engine feels eager, it feels healthy. It's not the fastest car in the world, but let's put it in perspective. We're driving a Diamante. We're driving Australia's stereotypical family cruiser. Sure doesn't feel that way from where I'm sitting. Oh. They weren't common in manual. And that gearbox, the shifts are long. The feel is not super tight, but the gimmick of having a manual in here at all is well worth it. The manuals came with LSD, and it's definitely helping me put my power down. I mean, this is a big, heavy, front-wheel drive car. It feels tight. Now, of course, this thing has an Evo-inspired body kit, and look, Evo it is not. It's not four-wheel drive, it's not rally bred. But I'm still having a blast. A pretty impressive showing from the manual. But how about the auto? So driving the auto is an altogether different experience than the manual. The basic fundamentals of the car are the same, but the gearbox really changes the character of this car. With the auto, I think I'm getting more of the regular Magna philosophy. It's an altogether cruisier car. So now I'm taking the automatic on the same roads we just took the manual, and it's not slow to shift. It's all relative really, but it's about as quick as most people will shift a manual. I think the biggest difference between the manual and the auto has to be the fact that the auto did not come with an LSD. And what that means is the car just doesn't put power down as confidently. I mean, it is a lot of power to handle through the front wheels. I guess if the manual was meant to at least try to be more of a driver's car, this is more being the best Magna it can be. Maybe I'm being too generous with the car. I really like it. When Autocar New Zealand first tested this in manual, they managed a 6.6 second 0 to 100, which is only 0.1 seconds slower than the Falcon XR8 of the time.
Must be stuck in third.
Now, this wasn't just some cowboy project. The engine in this was put through some serious paces by Mitsubishi Australia. First, 200 hours at a constant 5,500 RPM. Next, 200 hours of simulated acceleration up and down the rev range. And finally, 50 hours of bouncing off the 6,800 RPM rev limiter. And I think the 280,000 kilometers of this car and the 311,000 of the other car kind of says it all. Those blokes and blokettes at Tonsley, they could build an engine. The Ralliart started at $56,900 here in New Zealand. To put that in perspective, $48,000 got you a Falcon XR6, and a mere $49,200 got you a supercharged V6 Holden Commodore. So, what would compel you to spend another $8,000 on a front-wheel drive Mitsi? Well, despite being down on displacement and minus a supercharger, the Ralliart actually beat both of them in raw power, with the Holden making 230 horsepower and the Falcon only making 220. This thing would comfortably beat them in a straight line. It was also lighter, cornered better, and braked harder. All of this from a front-wheel drive cosplaying as an Evo. That had to be embarrassing for the other two. But the harsh reality is that the Ralliart, while cheaper, was closer in price to the V8s. And let's be honest, no one was really cross-shopping a V8 Holden or Ford with a front-wheel drive Mitsi. I think one of the funniest things about the Ralliart is that it isn't actually the most powerful Magna. In fact, that crown actually goes to something called the Diamante 30N, a very rare Japan-only model which came out all the way back in the mid-90s with a MyVec version of the GTO's dual-cam 3-litre V6, making a full 270 horsepower. It was auto-only and wouldn't actually outperform the Ralliart in the real world, but the idea that Mitsubishi Japan gave themselves exclusive access to the most powerful version of what was fundamentally an Australian car? The cheeky buggers. To sum up on the Ralliart, it's a relic of how fun the Aussie car market used to be. When Autocar reviewed it, they said it was the future of Mitsubishi Motors in the region. The car that would allow Mitsubishi Australia to turn at a crossroads. Well, we know how that played out. But still, it's not the concept car, and it's certainly no Evo, but it's the best version of a now beloved Aussie classic. So let's enjoy it for what it is and go for a drive.